Dear students, we are in the 13th part of the chapter wrist and hand complex containing the CMC joint, that is a carpometacarpal joint. So you understood about the concavity which is formed by the distal carpal bones and how the transverse deep transverse carpal ligaments and also the longitudinal ligaments and the intercarpal ligaments, how they are giving stability. The ligaments that maintain the arch are the transverse carpal ligament and the transversely oriented intercarpal ligaments. The TCL is a portion of the flexor retinaculum. The TCL also forms a part of what we call as flexor retinaculum that attaches to the pisiform and the hook of the hamate medially. On the medial part, there are the middlemost part bones are pisiform and hamate in two rows, distal and proximal, and to the scaphoid and trapezoid laterally. So scaphoid and trapezium is laterally the lateralmost bone in two rows. So the whole the carpal row is attached by the flexor retinaculum, and the transverse carpal ligament also forms part of the flexor retinaculum. The more proximal portion of the flexor retinaculum is continuous with the fascia overlying the forearm muscles. The fascia which is containing from the forearm muscles also, which also has a attachment with what we know call already or discussed is the palmaris longus muscles also. When we studied that, if you remember, that is also present there. The transverse carpal ligament and intercarpal ligaments that link the four distal carpals maintain the relativity fixed concavity that will contribute to the arches of the palm, which I have already told you. These structures also form the carpal tunnel. The carpal tunnel contains, so what is, I did not tell you what is inside the tunnel. So inside the carpal tunnel, the median nerve and the 9 flexor tendons, the extrinsic fingers and the thumb flexors. If you remember earlier when we studied about the muscles of the wrist joint, if you remember, you can if you remember that, you will understand this, where we saw that the flexor digitorum profundus is kept in four in a same layer, and then you saw a soft tissue separating the flexor digitorum superficialis. They are stacked in two parallelly, two up, up and above and below, stacked with the separation. So that is what we already understood as the base of the flexor retinaculum. So here we are talking about how the flexor retinaculum or the carpal, now because we are, it has reached to the carpo metacarpal area, and still the base of metacarpal area also these structures are present. So inside the carpal tunnel, what we call as the flexor carpal tunnel, which is formed by the flexor retinaculum and also the distal carpal bones. Inside that we have the median nerve and 9 flexor tendons, okay, and the extrinsic finger and thumb flexors. So extrinsic muscles, so 9 finger flexor tendons and the extrinsic finger and the extrinsic thumb flexor muscles. The number of intrinsic hand muscles attached to the TCL, that is the transverse carpal ligaments, and the bones of the distal carpal row, these may also contribute to maintaining the carpal arch. The structures which are passing through the tunnel are 9 flexor tendons, the eccentric muscles of the fingers and the thumb flexors, that are flexor muscles which are extrinsic. But the transverse carpal ligament also gives origin or attachment, original initiating attachments at the distal carpal row, which is attached to the TCL. These may also contribute to the maintaining. So you have to understand that a lot of structures are involved here when you are talking about the carpal arch as well as the tunnel which is formed beneath the arch. So here we are coming to the applied anatomy. So understanding the applied anatomy, there is a syndrome called as carpal tunnel syndrome, because the important nerve, the median nerve, is passing through the tunnel. When the median nerve becomes compressed within the carpal tunnel, a neuropathy known as, it's a neurological peripheral, it's a peripheral nerve. So when this happens, it's a neuropathology. So neuropathy known as carpal tunnel syndrome, very common syndrome, treated by a physiotherapist. Otherwise, short form is CTS. CTS means carpal tunnel syndrome may develop. Cobb and colleagues propose that the proximal edge of the TCL is the most common site for the wrist flexion induced median nerve compression. When the compression is more, if you ask a patient to flex their wrist joint, then what happens is the compression increase and the pathology mainly is pain and numbness increases. Long term pathology is weakness of the muscle supplied by the median nerve, mainly the thumb. The thenar muscles is affected. The what we call as the ape thumb deformity happens. Ape thumb deformity because the patient will not be able to move the thumb, that is abduction and abductor movement of the thumb will be affected. So any extension abduction of the abduction movement of the thumb is affected. No flexor movement of the thumb is possible. So the thenar musculature, if you see the patient's thenar area, it will be atrophied because muscle wasting will be there. So the tunnel is however at the level of the hook of the hamate, where median nerve compression is unlikely to be affected by the change in the wrist position. When the TCL is cut to release, so normally surgically the surgical operation to relieve the median nerve compression is because the TCL ligament, which is a strong ligament, which is performing this, giving the strength to the tunnel. So to relieve the tension, what they do, the surgeons do is cut the TCL so that incision on the TCL so that the median nerve compression is relieved. The carpal arch may widen somewhat, but investigators found that the arch would maintain its dorsal volar stiffness as long as the stronger transverse intercarpal ligaments were intact, because we already studied that both transverse carpal and transverse intercarpal ligaments are giving stability in the upper and lower part of the tunnel. So after opening the TCL due to any surgical incision, also the stability of the tunnel, the what we call as the arch will be maintained because of the stronger transverse intercarpal ligaments. So now we'll check about the range of motion of the carpometacarpal joint range of motion. The range of motion of carpometacarpal joint of the from the second, because we are not discussing the thumb will be discussed later, of the second through fifth metacarpals is observable most readily at the metacarpal heads and shows increasing mobility from the radial to the ulnar side of the from the radial to the ulnar side. My dear students, now you take your right hand on your and then hold your right hand with the left fingers, okay, on the palm, and just try to move, hold it in the hold your the fifth metacarpal bone and try to move the metacarpal, then try to move the third one, then try to move the try to move the fifth one first, then try to move the fourth one, then try to move the third metacarpal and then the second metacarpal. You can see that the fifth metacarpal bone moves more, the fourth moves also similar like that, but the third does not move like that, and the second comparatively moves a little bit, but the third is more stable and the range of motion is decreasing. So you can see that that is what the biomechanical aspect we understand is from the radial towards ulnar side, the metacarpal joints are that moving. That is why it is moving is because the carpometacarpal joint is moving. That's why the metacarpals are moving distally. So here you have to understand from the radial to ulnar side, increase in the range of motion from radial to ulnar side of the hand. Second through fourth CMC joints are the type of joint are plain synovial joints. They are part of synovial joints, what we call as diarthrodial joints, synovial joints, but are plain joints, plain variety. Only one. So the first or the first because the second, not the first, we are talking about the thumb is, we are not discussing the thumb. So the second metacarpal, that is a CMC joint, second carpometacarpal joint are plain synovial joints with 1 degree of freedom. What is the freedom of degree? What is the movement? Flexion and extension is only possible. although structured to permit, okay, structured to permit flexion extension. The second and the third CMC joints are essentially immobile. The second and the third CMCs are considered, because that's why we are talking about the second. Through we understood that from the radial, second and the third are not so mobile. The third and fourth are fourth and fifth are, however, highly mobile. That is, flexion extension is more available in this. The fourth CMC joint has perceptible flexion and extension. The fifth CMC joint is a saddle joint. Okay, the fifth CMC joint is not a plain joint; it is a saddle joint. So that's why we are getting more movement at the fifth CMC joint. The other joints are plain variety. Fifth joint is a saddle joint with 2 degrees of freedom, because if you try to abduct I told you earlier also, mild abduction is possible. A few degrees of abduction is possible in the fifth as well as the fourth, but fifth it can be more evident. Okay, so 2 degrees of freedom only for the fifth carpometacarpal joint, which is because of the joint synovial joint variety, which is a saddle joint. The immobile second and third metacarpals provide a fixed and stable axis about which the fourth and the fifth metacarpals, and the very mobile first metacarpal. See, actually, we did not discuss about the first, but the first metacarpal is highly mobile. You can move the thumb metacarpal joint from all direction. That's why thumb can actually come. Even it can, we can place the thumb in the level of our fingers, and the thumb can come to opposite position of the fingers also. That is the biggest ability we have in our hand. So thumb is a very essential. If thumb is lost with all the other four, we can do the work of equal to our work of other four fingers. So that's why thumb is a very essential part of the hand. That's why the functional ability increases by the presence of thumb. The motion of the fourth and fifth metacarpal facilitates the ability of the ring and the little finger to oppose the thumb. So that means the fourth and the fifth metacarpals are actually, it is more mobile compared to the second and third metacarpal bones, because when the thumb is coming for opposition, such as holding anything, holding grip, any gripping anything, holding any cylinder, holding a glass, for all of that, the little and the what we call as the ring finger comes to opposition to the oppose the thumb. That is very important for